Welcome, everybody. I'm Brian West, and that's Ryan Tomlinson, and we are here for another episode of Comics You Crave. Today on the show, we're going to be reviewing DC's The Flash, volume number 1. And Ryan, would you like to tell everybody what this comic's about, what they're in for?
Well, let's see. So this is The Flash, volume 1, like Brian said from DC Comics. It's called Lightning Strikes Twice. It's in the Rebirth, which is, if you don't know, the DC Comics basically rebooting everything, calling it Rebirth. This trade is 216 pages. It will release on January 24th, so it's coming up soon for $17.99. And basically, this Flash, Barry's learning more about the Speed Force and his powers. He's starting to figure out some stuff about the past, from the New 52 that created the Rebirth, and he's going to get some new partners in this one. And some of them are speedsters, some of them might not be speedsters. You gotta read it to find out. But other than that, I mean, that's just the basic rundown of what the first volume is. So I believe it collects the first, the first Flash 1 through 8.
So it does, yeah, and it also kind of ties in. I believe it's part. We read DC's Rebirth, and there's definitely parts of this from Rebirth. So I think each Rebirth volume takes from that original DC Rebirth comic, and throws it in here.
Do, like, this one has the Flash Rebirth number 1, and then it has the Flash 1 through 8. So
yeah,
it does the Rebirth thing. So that's kind of what you get in the very beginning, where it's kind of tying in from that original Rebirth comic that Brian just talked about. And I mean, it seems like it's setting up the story. And then it starts Flash 1 through 8, which is a completely...
Yeah, it definitely felt a little strange tacking on the Flash Rebirth. For those of you who aren't too familiar with Flash Rebirth, basically, like Ryan was saying, DC kind of did a soft reboot of the universe. And back in 2011, with Flashpoint Paradox, or Flashpoint, Flash screwed the entire timeline up by going back and saving his mother and then trying to fix it, and it created this whole new 52 where everybody was basically younger and kind of, I don't know. I did not like their characters as much. I was not a big fan of the New 52, and a lot of people weren't, and DC decided to give it another refresh and kind of hit the dump button on it. Well, not hit the dump button, but hit the reset a little bit, the soft reset, and now we have the Flash, or the Rebirth series. And it's a little confusing, and unfortunately this comic is a little confusing with it, because my biggest problem with this comic book is that it starts off with this bang of we're not going to give too many spoilers about the comic because there's some fun surprises in it, but at the very beginning, we just to even talk about it, we have to give away a few things. So the very beginning, the Flash pulls Wally. It shows Wally. This happened in the Flash Rebirth comic. Wally West, Flash's partner, Kid Flash from the original timeline, was still in the Speed Force and he was dying. And Barry, at the last second, pulls him out of the Speed Force. And when he does, he gets all his memories back of the previous timeline. And so this comic starts out with the revelation that Barry knows that he has this whole other life and he has these other memories, and 10 years was taken from the entire universe.
And all his friends know. And the Justice League knows.
And he knows about that he was married to Iris, but now he's not. And he knows that Wally was his partner and his best friend, and he saved him. And like, there's this huge emotional setup, and you're like, oh man, things going to get really good. How's he? Because he's still the same Flash in the same universe, but now he knows, that he was another Flash as well, and he has the memories of this other Barry Allen from the old universe that no longer exists. And how's that going to pan out? Well, it pans out exactly like you don't expect. Wally goes, I'm going to go hang out with the Teen Titans, and Flash is like, I'm going to go back to Central City and just live my life. And basically, issue 1 starts with him just being this old New 52 Flash.
Yeah, and I think we kind of talked about it before we started recording. This Flash seems like they're taking a lot of the elements from the CW show Flash.
And I didn't didn't mind that. This definitely is inspired. I mean, comics and movies have inspired each other for years, so I don't mind the fact that the comic books is drawing heavily from the TV show, which is fine because the TV show drew heavily from the comics, but it's definitely taking a lot of the new elements. I don't know if Jitters ever existed, the coffee shop, before the TV show, but it's now in the comic book, which I actually really liked. There's a second Wally West, which is kind of confusing, considering now there's two Wally Wests. But you know,
and if you know the Wally West from the CW show, just looks like that Wally West.
Yeah, there's definitely the two versions of Wally West in this, and they're two separate people. So I don't know. I was a little disappointed with how strong the Rebirth started, and you know, we last week we reviewed the Superman Rebirth, the Volume 1, and that dived heavily into the whole Rebirth storyline and the fact that there's a new Superman and the death of the old Superman, and this talked almost nothing about the whole Rebirth. So one of the things I was really excited about is this is a whole new start for the Flash, but to me it didn't feel like a new start for the Flash, and I thought that was a little disappointing.
Well, for me, this is really the first time I've actually got to read the Flash comic book. I mean, I've got hooked on the show. And it kind of started to change my opinion of who some of my favorite DC characters are because of the show. So the Flash has really quickly started to become one of my new favorite characters from the DC animated movies, and a lot of the other DC properties. This is the first time I really kind of got to get into the comic books, and I don't want to say I was let down, but I mean it was definitely an adjustment for me. I did love the artwork.
I definitely want to. That was one of the very. To your point, that's one of the strongest aspects of this comic. There's just a sample of some of the artwork. It's a different type of artwork, but I thought it worked really well. The artist does a great job, as you can see here with the Flash. I love how in motion everything about him is electricity. It lights up. It's very bold, very in your face, very vibrant. The artwork is amazing in this. It was one of my favorite parts of the comic book. But to Ryan's point, I found it just a little disappointing. To me, it's like an average episode of The Flash, which means it's still good, but as far as comics, I've read much stronger Flash storylines, and going into this, I really was looking forward to this because the Flash plays such an intricate part of Flashpoint and Rebirth, and the fact that, you know, the whole Wally being pulled out and Flash's world completely being turned upside down. I was very disappointed to see him.
And then Wally just leaves.
Yeah, Wally leaves and Flash just goes back to status quo. And the story that's in this, I mean, basically, I did like the idea that Flash, that a force storm creates other speedsters, and the Flash is kind of trying to train them and realizes he can't do it all on his own. I didn't mind that story part, but I felt like it didn't need 8 issues to really tell it. It felt about 4 issues too long. This felt like a story that should have been 4 issues long. And the fact that this is the starting of this whole relaunch of Flash, it's not a bad comic by any means. It wasn't what I had hoped for, and it didn't really start off with a bang like I kind of thought it might.
Well, and for me though, would it stop you from reading to getting the second volume? That's the big question. For me, I would get the second volume just because it ends in a point where I was curious enough that I want to see what keeps going on, because it does seem like the Flash does have a very central part in the Rebirth, the Rebirth storyline, especially with the whole Flash and Batman investigation that DC has announced that's going to be happening, where they finally start trying to figure out, you know, the Watchmen button. So I would get the second volume just because I am curious about where it's headed, and I'm just kind of hoping that it did feel like it was a long read. It was about 181 pages, I think, of actual.
Well, and it was a lot of 6 and 8 panel pages too. There was a lot of dialogue in this comic. Yeah,
there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of story. So it does take a little bit of time to read, but I thought it was good. It's just there's just something that I can't put my finger on. That I was hoping for that I didn't get, and I still can't decide what that was. But I mean,
I was hoping for something
it's a good
epic.
Comic. It's still a good comic. The villain I thought was good.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad comic. I was hoping for something epic, and I got something kind of above average, maybe average, maybe a little bit above average. So, I mean, for me, this would be a solid C+ comic. Not bad. If you love the Flash, you're gonna like this, and if you like the TV show, you're gonna like this too. It's a good comic. It's just not the great one that I was really hoping for. So, I'm usually we say buy it or don't buy it. I'm gonna say buy it if you like Flash. Buy it if you want to have the first volumes. It's not bad, but it's not. It's if you're looking for an epic story that you want a single volume to put on your bookshelf, this isn't the one for you. There's better Flash stories out there.
And I agree to a point where I say you should definitely get it just to at least have it. I'm a curious. Yeah, just to have it for a good read and to be able to stay topical on what's going on with the Flash. I mean, it is a good read. I would purchase it, for myself.
But yeah, there you go. Check it out if you want to. The Flash. It's got amazing artwork. It's got a decent story, and it's kind of disappointing it doesn't fill in as more of the Rebirth storyline. But other than that, there you go. Flash Volume 1. Lightning Strikes Twice. Out January 24th from DC for $16.99.
$17.99.
$17.99. I stand corrected. You have to pay for those extra pages, and there's a lot of pages in this.
Yeah, if you go to Amazon, it's probably $16.99.
But buy it from DC because, damn it, they're awesome.
They need your money. They are hurting.
All right. Until next time, guys. Make sure you read comics.
Read more comics.